It's a Friday night in December of 2020. My mate Jake and I had organised for 3 of our other mates from school to come and stay the night at his, and we were going to get up to some mischief. The plan for this night was pretty much to get a 24 pack of beverages and split a queue of a bit of the green flower amongst all 5 of us, right? So that's exactly what we intended to do. I'm in the last period of class for the day and the bell rings, and I am eager as fuck to go home so that I can go to Jake's house for the night. So I go home from school, pack all my stuff, and I go to Jake's house after that. When I get there, no one else is there yet. So I just go out to his cabin, which for those of you who have seen my most viral video, you'll know that he had a cabin out the back of his house, which we'd always sleep in every time I would stay over. So this night was no exception. Take my stuff out to the cabin. We get all set up. At this point, the other 3 boys were arriving. And that's when we decide to go up to the park that's nearby his house to collect the beverages from someone who was of age, right? So we walk those back to his house and we go into the cabin when we get back, and we just put those in the fridge, which is in the cabin, right? So, you know, we have dinner, yada, 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 do everything your typical 13-year-olds would do, but it gets to around 7 o'clock. And I think at this point we start hooking in to the beverages, right? All right, so by the time it got to about 8:30, we were feeling way too confident in ourselves and our ability to not get caught. So this is when we decide to start hooking into the queue that we had bought. So a bit of that green flower, if you know what I mean. We start hooking into that because we, by this point, had a few fermented cordials, right? So after this, I think everything's going reasonably well. Obviously, we've got all 5 of us there. We're just literally sitting around talking shit to each other. And we're sort of just poking fun at this one guy, and then it had switched to another. We're all sort of just like mucking around, but we'd mostly pick on this one mate named Fella who was there. We'd always sort of just like rile him up, and then he'd rile us up. It was all fun and games. Like we weren't actually like bullying him or anything like that. But it gets to about 9:30 at night, right? So by this point, we were obviously not in our right minds whatsoever. And that's when Jake's mum decides to come out the back of the house to let the dog out, right? And she comes up and knocks on the cabin door, which we had locked. So we're thinking like, holy fuck, like what do we do? Because we've just been, you know, ripping up in here and we've been doing all shit we shouldn't have. But luckily we didn't have any beverage bottles out. So they're all away. We turn the lights off and we hide everything, and we even put a couple of the boys in the big bed to make it look like they're sleeping. But his mum starts speaking to him at the door, and I don't exactly remember what was said, but he ends up going out and talking to her. So she obviously told him like, you got to come out and talk to me. But from memory, he comes back into the cabin and he goes, we're caught. I was like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, we're all just talking to him like, what do you mean we're caught? Like, what did she say? And pretty much what happened was she came into the backyard, like to let the dog out, obviously, and she could smell it. Like, obviously we had the cabin all closed up and shit, but we'd apparently done enough to have the smell like leak to outside. And yeah, she came in the backyard and she could literally smell it. That's why she knocked on the door. So Jake comes back into the cabin looking like an absolute Chinaman, and he is stressing the fuck out. We all are, because obviously we're all young kids at this point. You know, Jake's mum has got our mother's contacts, except for Fella, which is a crucial part of this story. You're gonna wanna hear this next part, all right? So we're all stressing the fuck out, but we end up going to sleep pretty early that night, like literally 11, 12 o'clock, because we were stressing so bad. But I remember in the morning we woke up and we had to lay out sort of a plan of what we were gonna tell Jake's mum, because we didn't want to tell her the complete truth, obviously, because that would have ended much worse. So we came up with this story that Fella had bought a vape to the house, and that vape was, you know, laced with the green flower. So Jake and I go into the house to talk to his mum, just him and I, because she knew me for a very long time. I was pretty much like family to her, right? So we go in and talk to his mum, and we lay out this story to her, say, you know, it was Fella's, he bought it, and we pretty much just blamed it all on him, which he agreed to. So, you know, we're talking to her for probably like a solid half an hour, just telling her this bullshit story that we fabricated. And we go back to the cabin, and now Fella's stressing out because he's like, you know, I don't want your mum to tell my mum, yada, yada, yada. But this is the part of the plan we had already thought about, right? The plan is to put all of the bottles from the beverages from the night before in the fella's bag, and he's gonna make a run for it, and that'll be the perfect cover up. We'll be like, oh yeah, fella made a run for it because he didn't want you to tell his mum that he brought this vape to the house. So he's really nervous about doing this at first. He's just looking out the door like of the cabin. Like the house is where you guys are, right? And then the cabin would be like 3 meters behind me, okay? So he's just peeking out the door, seeing into the house, trying to see if Jake's mum's looking. And after like 5-10 minutes of trying to convince him to just run, he legs it out the side gate and does not look back. So Jake's mum obviously doesn't like drive up the road or anything to look for him, but he legs it up to the park, ditches all the bottles, and gets picked up by his mum from the gym, which was nearby. And of course, because we staged it, we needed to make it look super real. So when he ran, we were calling out like, fella, stop, wait up. And we were like fake chasing him. Like we went way after him. And he's a relatively big dude, or rather he was at the time, I'm not too sure now. But he was a big dude, right? He weighed a lot. So we had to make it look like we were chasing him with our best effort. So we had to go like way after him. You know, he obviously got away because it was staged, right? But from this point on, Jake's mum didn't allow him to go to fella's house, hang out with him, speak to him. You know, she wasn't like a helicopter parent. Like she didn't go on his phone or anything and make sure she didn't have him on Snapchat. But I just remember he wasn't allowed at Jake's house and Jake wasn't allowed at his house. And his mum didn't want him hanging out with him at the gym or outside of school, anywhere, right? Which brings me to the very important lesson of today, which so many young cunts fail to understand. They think that, you know, doing drugs is a bit of fun. And I'm not gonna tell you like, oh, don't do drugs because you might get caught. I'm gonna tell you the actual deep lesson that I'm able to extract from this situation. You can literally lose friends from this shit. Like Jake did in that situation. He lost a very good friend. We loved hanging out with fella, going to his house on the weekends. We do heaps of stuff with this guy. That was like the main circle at the time. Me, fella, and Jake. But once this whole situation sort of unfolded, we weren't able to hang out with him without going behind Jake's mum's back, which we did do a couple of times. I'll do a story on that in another video, but it's just unfortunate the way it sort of turned out, because literally this whole experience broke up a friend group. Obviously, I was able to hang out with fella after that because my mum, she didn't know the full story, right? You know, she didn't know exactly what happened. So I was still able to hang out with fella for the short time that I had left with him before he actually moved. As too many times I get guys messaging me and they tell me, oh dude, like my mate's just started doing this, doing X, Y, Z. He's been taking tabs every night or whatever. I literally had this message from a kid the other day. And it just makes me think like, fuck, it's so sad. Like guys are literally willing to, and girls are literally willing to give up everything just to have a bit of this short-term dopamine. Like the fact that, you know, these high schoolers are just willing to sacrifice all their friends, all their relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, family, whatever, so that they can do these things and just hang out with losers who are doing the same things is just fucking mind-boggling to me. Like it's actually crazy because I failed to understand this in high school, but the type of friendships that you want are, you know, like friendships with the friends who actually lift you up, not the ones who just want to bring you down to their level. So I've spoken a bit about this before, how I was, you know, when I was trying to get on like personal development and start making money online, obviously I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. But when I was trying to do all that stuff, I had a mate in my ear, you know, chirping me, oh, surely you'll smoke with us sometimes, surely you'll drink with us sometimes. And as I said in a previous video, I was actually considering it. Like I was like, oh yeah, maybe like once I get clean, maybe I'll just do it for fun sometimes. But obviously once I cut him off, I come to realize like, fuck, he didn't want what was best for me. He just wanted to bring me down to his level so that I was the same as him. Because what I failed to understand was people want to see you do better, just not better than them. So when you start, you know, you start on your journey, whatever it may be, posting content, your mates, they may uplift you, you know, you're getting a few views on your videos. But once you start making money off of it, you're getting heaps of views, you're signing brand deals, whatever. I'm not saying this is me. They're going to fucking hate on you, and I guarantee you they won't be your friends because you're doing so much better than them in every aspect of life at this point. And I feel this is something I learned far too late because I held on to these mates for so long. I was like, oh, you know, just stick it out. They'll get on the self-development. They'll start making money at some point. You know, it took me a while to learn it. I was putting all these beliefs in my mind, and I was trying to find information that would back up my claims, but I never could because they wouldn't listen. right? So the main takeaway, I guess, is to just stay away from it all. You know, value your relationships. Try and prosper throughout high school. Don't turn to all the short-term pleasures, all the bullshit. Focus on your academics, focus on your circle, and actually make sure that the people in your circle aren't doing any of that shit, because if they are, I promise you at some point or another you will go down that road. All right, and if you're actually serious about changing your life and you want to start making improvements towards that abundant future that you've always desired, tap into the top link in the description. That's going to take to my online school community where I'm teaching young guys and girls how to change their lives one day at a time. Stay grinding, G.